Hello there everybody, Robin Nichols here. I'm a photographer and teacher and publisher based in Sydney. Now today in this tutorial I'm going to be talking about Photoshop Elements version 12. Pretty much everything I'm going to talk about though is applicable to version 11, 10 and even 9 and 8. So what we can learn from that is an awful lot hasn't changed in terms of organizing and arranging our pictures within Photoshop Elements, although obviously other things have changed which we'll deal with in different tutorials. Now when you download or you install the software, it doesn't matter whether you buy a DVD from a shop or you download it off the internet, you'll find that Elements actually comes in two parts. There's the editor part and there's the organizer part. Guess what that does? So the editor part is one that I probably use the most because that has all the powerful retouching, layer, masking, text and special effect tools in it. Whereas the organizer is, well, it's an organizer. It's used for organizing your images. As a teacher, I tell everybody about the organizer. As a photographer, I never use the organizer for the simple reason that there are other tools out there that, for me, do the organizing a little bit better. No matter, I will show you how this all works. What we'll also do is have a look at how you can use other organizers, for example, free organizers such as Picasa that can be downloaded off the internet to organize your pictures if you want to do that as well. So we have the organizer and we have the editor. One of the problems I think you may find with Photoshop Elements when you start up from scratch is very simple. They look exactly the same. So we have the organizer and the editor here, and you think, gee whiz, apart from a few little labels and stuff, they're both grey. They're both sort of pale grey and white and black, and you know they've both got the logo on them, and you think, gee, what is going on here? So I find this an annoying thing simply because I teach people in face-to-face classes at Sydney University, and they do get confused. You're looking at the picture and the picture looks exactly the same in the editor as it does in the organizer. So it's a little bit of a, I think, a design shortcoming, and unfortunately I ought to write to Adobe. This shortcoming has been in all versions of Adobe all the way back to about version 5 or 6. So what do? First things first is we have to ask ourselves, do we really want to import everything into the organizer, or do we want to use our existing filing system? I'm sure if you've never used Photoshop Elements before, you will have a way to file your images, for example. You may want to just store them in the My Pictures folder on your Mac or your PC. You may want to do this as I do. I just put them, in this case I've got some pictures from a Japanese trip, and I've just popped them into a folder called Japan 2014. These are edited pictures in my Japan 2014 trip folder. So I can use a regular PC Windows Explorer or indeed the Mac Finder window just to have a look at my picture. And of course, you know, you can change the size of your images significantly. So I think, well, hey, these thumbnails are pretty big thumbnails. They're sort of elephant thumbnails. And I can very quickly find the photo that I want, and then I can open it. So the point I'm making here is you do not necessarily need to use the organizer, because using the organizer kind of insists that you have to reinvent the wheel. I've spent a lot of time organizing my photos just in my PC Explorer, the folders. I've renamed some of the pictures, as you can see here, and I've put them into specific folders. So if I'm going to use Photoshop Elements Organizer, what I need to do is obviously open the organizer. Here we go, here's Mr. Organizer. And I need to import those images from my, in this case, my edited folder, so that I can see them in the big grey window. So it's kind of like doing the same job twice, and as I say, reinventing the wheel, which is not always a good thing. Okay. How do we do that? Well, very simply, there is an import button in the upper left-hand part, and we can see from here, we can import from files and folders, or from a camera and a card reader, or from a scanner, or just by searching for stuff. Now, one thing we need to make very clear from the outset, when you import pictures to Photoshop Elements Organizer, nothing goes into the program. I'll repeat that, nothing goes into the program. It's a common misbelief that you look at pictures and you see them in the window. It's probably best if I just go and do them. Let's go and do that and I'll show you. So I'm just going to scroll through, find my Japan. There we go, there's Japan 2014. And I think that's actually the wrong folder there. We want to go to Japan. Robin is the name, and here's Japan edited. There we go. So I'm going to select all those pictures. Okay, and I do that by pressing Control and A for all. Okay, Command A obviously if you're on a Mac. The organizer says, well, hey Robin, you're just going to import some stuff. Do you want to automatically fix red eyes? Automatically suggest photo stacks? And I'm thinking, what the heck are photo stacks? So to begin with, I wouldn't check anything like this at all. Wouldn't bother with it at all. You may want to get photos from subfolders. There's no subfolder in this particular folder here. That's why it's grayed out. Automatically fixing red eyes, I can guarantee, will slow the process down seriously, so that you're waiting for them to import and you're going, come on, and it's just looking at every picture and finding a red eye, red eye, red eye. Sometimes it reduces, well, it looks as though it's reducing the red eye in a picture when there's nobody in there. You think, well, where's the red eye? So don't do that. So having selected all my pictures, I'm just going to say, what it means is, very, very quickly, there are 105 edited photos, ba-ding, Shazam, they'll all just appear in the window. I think, wow, that was pretty quick. The reason it's very, very quick is it's just copying low resolution thumbnails. These are not the real photos. The real photos are the ones that are sitting in my pictures file under the folder called Japan Edited 2014 or whatever. So all we've done here is to make a very quick link between my images that have already been sorted, labeled and stuck into folders deep somewhere in my computer, it doesn't matter where they are, and Photoshop Elements Organizer. Now, if we have an accident, for example, let's say the software corrupts and I have to delete Photoshop Elements off my computer and then reload it, unfortunately, as sometimes happens, guess what? All my pictures are still going to be there because they're in the Pictures folder. They are not in Photoshop Elements. So I hope we've got that straight. Okay, onward. Now, another little tricky thing here again is if I were to rename this folder, and let's say call it Japan, I don't know, November 2014, or if I were to rename any of these files here for whatever reason, just using my PC, what will happen is I will get a question mark appearing because this image will go, hang on a minute, when we unloaded them they were called Fushimi Inari Temple 01, for example, and now it's no longer there. So a little question mark symbol will appear and you'll think, gee whiz, what's going on here? So if I double click it, and of course because I haven't changed it, it actually finds it and shows me a big version of the picture. But if I were to change the name, move or hide this picture for whatever reason on my computer somewhere, maybe I've just copied it onto a disk or put it onto an external hard drive, a big question mark come up. When I double click on it, it says, do you want me to go and find it? The really clever thing about Photoshop Elements Organizer is it remembers the name, it remembers the details, and it'll go off and look for it. And it'll look for it, it may take an hour, it may take 2 hours, depending on how much stuff you've got on your computer, but it will find it if it's still there. So it's quite clever. Okay, now this is why I find these two programs almost identical. I'm now just going to right click and choose Edit with the editor. So it's going to take this wonderful fox statue image that I photographed and stick it in the editor, and you think, well, yeah, okay, what's the difference? So down at the bottom of the editor screen I have an organizer button. I'll click that. There's the organizer. So the only way of telling me that this is the organizer and not the editor is saying, well, you can't do anything to this picture with a pink ribbon across because editing is in progress. Robin is busy in the other room editing the picture. You see what I mean? So they actually do look remarkably similar. And I think that's a bit of a design error. Anyway, I won't go on about that any longer. I think you understand the point. Okay, so the organizer is for us to organize our pictures. So if you're the sort of person as I am, where you like to organize all your pictures in files and folders, as you can see I've got here, the best thing to do is just reproduce those in the organizer by bringing in the contents of folder and folder and folder. If you find this a daunting task, because you may have 20,000 images in 200 folders, goodness me, I mean a lot of people do these days, then maybe just start from the future. Any new pictures will go into the organizer and only bring in stuff to the organizer that you need from the past that you're actually going to work on. Okay, so I've double clicked, remember, and this picture goes big. I can unzoom it just by making it go small again, should I want to, say, double click on another photo to have a look at it. Now, one of the things about the organizer is kind of supposed to, I suppose, work hand in hand with the editor, of course, because the two are very similar. They're designed by the same people. The editor is for the sort of industrial strength changes, while the organizer just displays not only the work waiting to be done, but also the work that you already have done. So, for example, if you've edited your pictures in the editor, they will automatically go back into the organizer very simply. And I'll show you what we can do here. Going back into the editor, where's the editor? The editor is here. Let's say I make this go black and white. Don't worry for the moment. In fact, I'll make it go pale. Okay, and then I choose to save. All right, and the save as function, that's save as, file save as, says to me, look, hey, do you want to save it? And I'm going, yes, that's what I just pressed, file save as. It automatically just puts it straight back where it came from. Not into the organizer, but into my Japan edited folder. So wherever it finds a picture, it will put it back again. So during the course of your day, if you've suddenly thought, gee, I edited a picture 10 minutes ago, where did it go? It will always be where you found it. The trick is you've got to remember where you found these things, but generally it will be put back unless you specifically say, no, 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 don't put it back into Japan edited, put it back somewhere else. Okay, so you have to be very specific about that in order to direct it to be saved somewhere else. But you'll notice here that the application is very, very clever because it knows that Robin's been up to no good and he's edited the picture. So it says in REFox underscore edited -1. So that's just appeared, the underscore edited -1 has just appeared out of nowhere because it knows I've saved it, or I'm going to save it because I've changed it. So we automatically leave include in elements organizer, save in a version set should you wish to do that. And you think, well, what is he talking about? I'll show you. I'm just going to save it. Okay, and the JPEG options come up. It's going to say quality, no worries with that. Fantastic. All right, back into the organizer we go. And you can see here back in the organizer, because I've saved it, I'm going to close that down because I've had enough of that. I've finished editing my picture. So let's go back and have a look at that photo, if we can find it. So there's another little bit of a problem, isn't it? You've got to be able to find the picture. And I think the little fella's a little bit further down here. Here he is. Okay. Something strange has happened. You may not have noticed this, but there is my original picture, and to the right of it is the faded picture. So it's kind of very kindly put it next door to the original. I think, well, that's good. But there's also this funny thing that's appeared here, and this is called a version set. It's actually not, it's like a little button, but it's called version set. So what it's done is it's actually attached itself or put itself side by side, or even put itself on top of, actually in this case, on top of the original. I made a mistake there. The left-hand one is a duplicate. This one is the original. Didn't realize it was open. So you can see when I click it, it kind of opens. There's a very slight grey highlight or darker grey highlight around these two pictures. That means they're now part of a thing called a version set. A version set is somewhere where you can put in 20 different versions of the same image. And the idea of this little button is to just shut them all up into one little box so that we don't, let's say if we have 20, they don't occupy the whole screen. We can open the version set if we then want to, for example, go back and find the original or look at some of the other version should we do it. That's a version set. So the program is very intuitive in the sense that it kind of protects us from making too many mistakes. People still, of course, lose or misplace or get a bit confused when it comes to saving pictures. But the key things are to remember, they always save them to the original folder from whence they came. That's always the case. And I always joke that Adobe being a US product, it's a fairly litigious society. So if suddenly they started saving them to places and everybody was scratching their head, well, where the heck have they gone? There'd be a lawsuit on the horizon somewhere, because people just don't want that. They want a simple product, and so that's how it happens. So all good and well. So what else can we do with this organizer? It's very, very busy, isn't it? Well, we can, for example, look at our media. Media is one of these generic, I don't know, modern terminology words that we use all the time for describing photos, videos, sound files, that kind of thing. So that's where your media go. But you can subdivide them into people, okay? And I can go through my media and say, hey, he looks like a person. So I can actually add a person. So I can just call it, let me see, Boatman. Call him Boatman. Ding, So successfully added. All right, so he goes into the people folder. There he is. All right, so if you want to separate or segregate your people photos into a separate area, you can go people, you can even go places. It's mad, isn't it? Places. And we can even go events. So there are different ways of cutting up the massive amount of pictures we're going to get into our organizer window. Now, another way to do this, of course, is to make an album. An album. And I can do this. I can just click on album name, and I'm going to call this Sumo. Okay, sumo wrestlers. And here are some sumo wrestlers. 1, 2, 3, 4, quite a few of them. And I'm just going to drag and drop them into the media bin. And then I'm going to click OK. So now what I've done is I've actually made a little folder or album called Sumo. Have I copied the folders? Or have I copied the photos? No, I haven't. All I've done is say, look, in a segregated or separate part of the organizer window, just show me all those pictures that answer to the description of Sumo. And you can have as many albums as you want. So going back to the media, which is the big window with everything in, you can still see all my Sumo pictures. But if I just want to see the Sumo pictures on their own, ding, I click on the albums button there, and bingo, we go back into this main window, and I just see my collection of sumo wrestlers. Hey, very good. All right, so that's a very neat way to do it. As I mentioned here, there's places. Now, places is something very cool because it allows me, let's say I'm doing a road trip around the United States, and I'm driving around, I'm taking 100 pictures in this place and 200 pictures in this town and so on and so forth. I can actually add my images onto the map. Let's just go. I think they actually do have sumo wrestling in the United States. I did actually read that there is actually a sumo association. There certainly is in Hawaii because of the Japanese history there. So what I might do is this. I might think I might just go and get, for example, what have we got? We've got the sumo over here. What we need to do is to grab some of my sumo people and place them into here. So I'm going to click add places, and what that does is bring up, as you can see here, the timeline. And where are my sumos? Where are my sumos? Come on lads, where are you? Sumo, they are here. Okay, so I could, for example, just click all my sumo. Trust me, these are not the only ones I got. And I can drag this down. I can drop this down onto, whoops, I need to actually drop it down onto the right place, which is Fukuoka, and I can just let go. Ding, place, 16 pictures here, and it's going, yeah, and I'm going to go, yep, okay. So as a road trip, you can then double click this, and it will show you, or if I go back to done, if I go back to here, you can see I click on that, and of course it shows me all the pictures that are associated with my stay in Fukuoka. So these things, media, people, places, and events, are simply here for us to subdivide our photographic lives, I suppose. There are a couple of other very neat things, and these are things that I use a lot. And this is, for example, here's a boatman. I think those are all 5-star pictures. I really like those. So I can say rate them all 5 stars. Okay, rate them all 5 stars. What I need to do is go back to my media. I actually need to, I'm going to right click and I'm going to say add, in terms of ratings, let's add 5 stars first. All right, so I've added 5 stars, and I'm going to say, look, show me anything with, 4 stars, actually anything with 5 stars, but anything more than 1 star is actually rated, because I've now got no other images there with stars in it. Let's go back to the media and choose just a couple more. Well, that's a 5-star picture, so I'm going to right click, and I'm going to add a rating. Let's go, that's pretty good, that's a 5-star picture. Again, let's just check that. I want to see everything with 5 stars. Okay, fantastic. Let's go back to media and let's just choose, let's just choose this one. I'm going to give this a 1-star rating, even though I think it's a 5-star picture. And we say, let's show me anything with a 1 star or 1 star and less. So we can separate the 5-star from the 1 star by showing just 1 star or less. So that, for me, is a really neat way to hide a lot of stuff in the window, because let's face it, we're going to get very confused when we look at hundreds of pictures. Now, another way to separate out, and the final word on this, on the organizer, is this. I can go to the File menu, and I can choose to manage, backup, or restore, or create my own catalogs. And the reason is a catalog is essentially what we're looking at here. You can see I've got a catalog called Robin, which is my current catalog. I can create a new one. And so, for example, I could create a catalog simply called Japan 2014. Okay, and click OK. So, woof, everything's disappeared again. So I could actually just go and choose to import just my Japan pictures into this particular catalog. And again, you have exactly the same functionality, the star rating system. We have the ability to add albums, all that kind of stuff. But I could just repeat myself here and just say get media. So there, another 106 pictures come in, so I've kind of duplicated them. But this is a separate catalog. So let's say on my trip I also stopped over in the United States or somewhere like that and had photos from there. Here I'm just looking at the Japan stuff. So you can split it up into different catalogs, and of course if you want to go back to the originals, I need to go back to Manage Catalogs. I need to go back to Robin's catalog here and say Open. So it just swaps them over. And that's kind of a neat little feature. Also in this window, very quickly to wrap this up, we have the ability to use Element's amazing social media, I suppose you can call it. We can make a private web album, or we can upload pictures to all these places, such as Photo Mail, but of course the usual suspects, Facebook, Flickr, Twitter, Vimeo, etc., etc. Very, very good. We also have a number of creative projects, and we deal with this in a completely different tutorial, but you can make photo books, you can make, I don't know, almost everything in project-based, streamlined, blow-by-blow, step 1, step 2, step 3 kind of format. So they're actually quite easy to do. And that's the whole point of Photoshop Elements, Organizer and Editor, that it's trying to make stuff reasonably easy for normal people. I mean, normal people, not fanatical photo enthusiasts, but just normal people to organize those pictures, edit them, and create fantastic works of art. Now, as a postscript to this introduction to the Adobe Photoshop Elements Organizer, you may want to consider, well, maybe that's not for me. Maybe I'll go down the road of using my organized pictures, which, for example, in my Windows Explorer windows, as I've previously showed you, or maybe I'll look around for another type of browser. A lot of you might already be using a browser such as, I don't know, Picasa by Google, or you may want to try this one called GIMP, and I'm just showing you a couple of possibilities. GIMP is a free it's a free browser that you can download. It's quite a good little editor as well. Here is Picasa. Again, it's fantastic. It scans your whole database and gives you, simple editing ability. It's certainly nowhere near the sophistication of Photoshop Elements, but it's a very good little organizer. Here's another one, again, AC/DC, which is kind of a cool one, but as you can see here, a lot of the stuff you have to actually pay for. It's relatively inexpensive, but you still have to pay for it. So if you don't want to buy into anything new, you may also consider having a look in the box where your digital camera arrived, okay? And you may find something like this. This is Canon Zoom Browser EX, and this is an oldish version. I use it occasionally. It's actually a really good little browser, and we can connect this to Photoshop Elements. So for example, if I want to take my editing to the next level, you have kind of basic editing capabilities in Zoom Browser, but if I want to take it to the next level, I can link it up to Photoshop Elements, and I can just set it up so when I double click it, it'll actually take it into an external editor, i.e. Photoshop Elements. So I don't need to use the organizer. I can just use this really nice, neat, fast program supplied by my Canon camera company called Zoom Browser. And of course Nikon, Sony, all these other companies have a kind of browsing engine software application supplied on the disk. Go up, find the box, open the box up, have a look at that disk and check it out. You'll find you've probably got some reasonably good browsing software already supplied with the camera. Well, I hope this helps just to set up the organizer and get a bit of an understanding of how the organizer works. We'll move on to the next tutorial in which we discuss how to work in the editor workspace.